Good afternoon and welcome to the October 6th, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. I'd like to thank Chief Fiorito for jumping in and greeting, and I think Dave Brandenburg may have assisted as well. Thank you to Eric Marcus for the numerous things he's doing today in terms of secretary setup and Ticketmaster and etc. Thanks to Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Zwick for our great programs, and Jim Gundel for the website maintenance. I'd ask Denny Jarvie to come forward for an invocation, please.
All right.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? Dear Lord, for friends, food, fun, and fellowship, especially the fellowship of Rotary, we give it our sincere thanks. May these tokens of your bounty nourish our physical bodies in preparation for the challenges that are beholders in Rotary. Always keep us mindful of the needs of others and keep us always attuned to their calling in Rotary. We ask these things in your eternal name. Amen.
All right. Eric, are we still working on a secretary's report?
On the secretary's report.
Okay. It's apparently on the move.
I can't see it, but I've got it. I'll sit down for a moment and give it. I was just getting ready to load a guest, the speakers. The secretary's report. We have one guest. Paul Otten has a guest.
I'd like to introduce, I think many of you know Jeff Mann. Jeff's our Director of Student Services, so he does everything with our kids and oversees safety and security in the district as well.
Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome, Jeff. Okay, and then our speakers will get introduced later. We have 32 Beavercreek Rotarians attending for 59.3%, which is a high mark for this fall.
All right. Okay. Now introducing Don Adams.
Yes.
Come on up. Come on down.
Come on down.
Getting some last minute jokes from the table.
No. Trying to decide what to
Oh, you need
I
that.
don't think that will. Good afternoon. How is everybody? Thought I'd dress up for the day, just figured. Okay. Jokes aren't good, I might as well look good. Today is October 6th, the 279th day of the year. Right. Less than 3 months left in this year. It's amazing. It's also American Libraries Day. I didn't think Beth would be here. I thought she'd take it. I'm gonna take it day. Garlic Lovers Day. There you go. Mad Hatter Day. National Body Language Day. National Coaches Day. National Noodle Day. Not sure what that means, but National Plus Size Appreciation Day. It's amazing what they come up with. It's also Platter and it's International Plaid Day. A couple of people on plaid, that's good. And World Smile Day. We also celebrate 4-H week this week. Active Aging Week. Looking around this room, I see we're all actively aging. Animal Welfare Week. Customer Service Week. Get Organized Week. Getting the World to Beat a Path to Your Door Week. International Postcard Week. Mystery Series Week. And National Carry a Tune Week. And that's something I've never been able to do. And also October is Domestic Violence Prevention Month. In 1783, these are things that happened on this date, Benjamin Hanks patented the self-winding clock. In 1863, Dr. Charles Shepard opened the first public bath in Brooklyn.
I'm glad we don't have those anymore. In 1876, the American Library Association was organized in Philadelphia. In 1882, the first World Series game was held. Cincinnati Red Stockings beat the Chicago White Stockings in Cincinnati in Bank Street grounds. In 1893, and I'm sure you all remember this, Nabisco Foods invented cream of wheat. In 1939, Adolf Hitler denied that he wanted to go to war against France and Britain. Yeah, he lied. He also announced that he planned to regulate the Jewish problem in 1939. For you Chicago Cubs fans, in 1945, tavern owner Billy Goats Sienna bought a seat for his goat and came forward to the World Series and was escorted out and he cast the goat curse on the Cubs.
That's unbelievable.
Well, it did last a long time.
It did last a long time, but it's over.
In 1956, scientist Albert Sabin announced that his oral polio vaccine is ready for testing and it would soon supplant Jonas Salk's vaccine in many other parts of the world. And speaking of polio, there is a get-together tonight at the Southern Ohio Brewery with the district, Rotary District. It's called Pints for Polio. Every dollar of every beer that you buy there tonight goes towards the polio in Rotary. So try to come. It's from 5 to 8 this evening. And this is one of the reasons I never even considered being a submariner. The U.S. in 1958, the U.S. nuclear sub USS Seawolf remained a record 60 days under the North Pole. I can't imagine being in the tube for that long. That's a long time. In the club, we have a couple of anniversaries. Well, one birthday, Mike Canada's birthday. It's October 2nd. We had some member anniversaries. Pete Bales, 4 years. Beth Handworker, 1 year. And Paul Lawton, 7 years. And then we had one wedding anniversary, Brandon and Ashley. Their 5th anniversary. I haven't done this for a while, but I thought I'd go back to some of the stupid laws that are out there still on the books in some of these states. This is in Mississippi. In Temperance, Mississippi, you can't walk a dog without dressing it in diapers. It's illegal to drive around the town square more than 100 times in a single session. For those of us that remember the places up on, I don't know, was it Kettering? I can't remember the names. The restaurant now we used to drive around. And it wasn't Christians, it was something else. In Tylertown, it's unlawful to shave in the center of Main Street. In Missouri, in Excelsior Springs, hard objects may not be thrown by hand. Worrying squirrels is not tolerated. And it is not illegal to speed. And in Purdy, dancing is strictly prohibited. In Montana, it is a felony for a wife to open her husband's mail. And balls may not be thrown within the city limits. In Nebraska, a man is not allowed to run around with a shaved chest. And a parent can be arrested if his or her child cannot hold back a burp during church service. In Lehigh, Nebraska, donut holes may not be sold. Not sure what they do with them. And in Waterloo, barbers are forbidden from eating onions between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Yeah, let's talk about it. I went to a restaurant, it was full. There was no place to sit, and the wait was over 30 minutes. I took out my cell phone, placed it to my ear, and said loudly, "Hey, get over here. She's here with somebody else." 6 couples got up and left. After an MCAT exam, my father asked his son, "How'd it go, son?" The young man, looking rather reproachfully, said, It went well, Dad. In fact, it went so well, I get to retake the test again next year. The blonde guy and a brunette girl were happily married and about to have a baby. One day, the wife started having contractions, so the husband rushed her to the hospital. He held her hand as she went through a trying birth. In the end, there were 2 little baby boys. He jumped up and said, "Who's the other father?" These sound good when I put them down. Here's a few quotes on marriage. When a man steals your wife, there's no better revenge than to let him keep her. After marriage, a husband and wife become the 2 sides of a coin. They just can't face each other, but they stay together. By all means, marry. If you get a good wife, you'll be happy. You get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. Women inspires men, or a woman inspires a man to do great things and prevents him from achieving them. Well, this is a question I've never been able to answer, but the great question is, what does a woman want? You know, I have no idea on that. And if you start an argument with your wife, don't plan on having the last word. And I've had luck with both my wives. I've had luck with both my wives. The first one left me, the second one didn't. Well, she's not here. You know what I did before I married? Anything I wanted. Yeah, there's 2 kinds of people. Those who wake up in the morning and say, "Good morning, Lord." And those who wake up in the morning and say, "Good Lord, it's morning." I can't tell another blonde joke, that's not fair. It was dinner time on a British Airways flight from London to New York. As the flight attendant moved down the plane, she asked one of the passengers, "What would you like for dinner?" "What are my choices?" asked the passenger. "Yes or no?" There was a Sunday school teacher that asked her class, "Does anyone know what we mean by the sins of omission?" And the small girl replied, "Aren't those the sins we should have committed but didn't?" All right, that's about enough of that. Let's go with the quotes. Obviously, it's not working today. So. Success in life comes from knowing how to play a bad hand well, not from having a good hand. And struggles like life don't last forever, so you have to choose which one you'll focus on. Today's finds, if you ever went to Dominic's and had their garlic dressing on their salad, that's $1. And if you had it, you probably still taste it. If you wear denim, that's $1. If you still send postcards, that's $1. If you ever ate cream of wheat, that's $1. If you're not attending the Fights for Polio event tonight, that's $1 because you're going to lose out if you don't come. And if you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. So, David?
Okay. So obviously you did not try that out on those jokes out with your wife at home.
Find it better not.
Hopefully she's not on Zoom watching those. Okay, so happy bugs. Tom?
Right, well, about a month ago, my Mustang was stolen and I got it back last Friday. Took them 2 weeks to tail it after, you know, it looks better than it started.
Great.
Just a reminder, we have the Fire Prevention Week open house and we'll try this tomorrow. from 10 to 1 up at Station 61 and at the maintenance garage for the city. Come on out.
All right, thank you. Eric?
I am unhappy about it. I learned last night that the Ohio State game versus Purdue is on Peacock, which will cost $6.99 if you want to watch the game on your phone television.
Unless you know somebody with peacock.
Yeah.
Bar, yeah.
Yeah, it is a good day for sports bars. Elizabeth?
I'm happy back for all the volunteers that helped with the Portage last Sunday. We had a good time out there and we probably had 75 to 80 bikers that came through. So it was a good time to thank you and thanks to the fire department and the auxiliary for joining us.
We had a dinosaur.
And the dinosaur.
All right, other happy bugs. Yes, sir.
I'm right as well. I had the privilege of talking to a group of St. Luke students at the State House. What was that, yesterday? Where they get a tour of the State House building, but they don't get an opportunity to go onto the floor of the house unless a rep is there. So I met them there and they had some really neat questions. It was a good group, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we wanted to get warmed up because our girl goes there next year. We wanted to work the kinks out.
Okay.
We had a happy bug. Yes, sir.
Kind of happy buck announcement, I guess. Went and saw Mike Zwick yesterday. He is out of, care facility and back home. He obviously has had some knee surgery done. He's got a pretty healthy scar, but he's mobile and in good spirits, but he would want everybody to know that he misses everybody and being here, and he'd be happy to entertain anybody that want to stop by and chat for a little bit. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Other happy bugs? Yes, sir.
Yesterday, we had an event here, Brian was there, called Nourish the Service. It was its second year. It's a great program. They're gonna be back spring, look for it. What they do is they get vendors and organizations like pantries to give boxes of food, non-perishable food, household supplies, cleaning supplies, toilet paper, that kind of stuff, and beauty supply, I don't know what your body wash, soap, that kind of stuff. They have 400 boxes of each. And what they do is they're there to give it to military families. So it's already, many of you have been in the military, you know how difficult it is. It's already difficult. They don't make much money, you don't go into the military to be rich. And they're proud, so it's a difficult one. I mean, many of them are taking food stamps and going to other places to get help. With inflation, it's just making the situation much, much worse. At the pantries as well. So it's good. I gave a little talk, Ryan did too, and trying to, because they're proud people. They don't want handouts. And it wasn't a handout, it was community saying we care and let us help you a little bit. So next spring, we're going to have it. Remember, Nourish the Service. And if you want to help, we need volunteers. It was a good program. And I expect it to get bigger right here at the Hope Hotel. I got another $1. I had 2 weeks of driving and visiting family and friends, and it was wonderful. I do have to tell you one story. Maybe that's $2. When I was first year I was mayor back in like 2001, I love high school football. Nothing better than high school football. You know, with the small, slow kid can still make an impact with big one. And I asked the football coach when I was first mayor if I could talk to the team because we had that Xenia backyard brawl, right? Big A. And I said, I'm going to give them, you know, the new Broccoli speech. And I went in there and did my thing, and we lost 35-0. I've never been that expert. Yeah. So one of my stops was we said Cutter Cousins, a quarterback for a high school football team in Florida, and they asked me to speak. And they have this thing Thursday night after they eat where they hold hands around a big tree on campus and give another killer speech. We lost 47 to 7.
There, wait,
And I've been told, I need to get back to 1-1, guys, there's pressure here. That didn't work very well. But we had a blast, even though they got us. The last happy dollar, happy buck is yesterday, Tuesday, the Women's League had a candidate night. Many of you folks were here. It was packed. They were expecting 140. There were many more than 100. They had to put more chairs out. And it was just good to see everyone asking good questions, concerned. There's 2 issues. We're gonna probably talk about it. It's not straightforward. It's not, there's a lot of issues, questions associated with it, but for all the candidates that are here, you guys really did a nice job talking issues and whatnot. Very informative. So good job.
You didn't give them a pep talk. Yes, sir.
I want to piggyback off Rick's first point that there's truths and that's list on there. Yeah, I went there yesterday afternoon. Dr. Jerry Maples, when I put aside, her husband in there. I won't. Yeah, and they're going to do another one this weekend. Next weekend, Butler County. So it's going to be spread out a little bit.
Nice.
But they'll be back here spring.
Okay,
So,
That's great.
nice. Any other happy bugs? Any announcements? Yes, sir.
For Shannon's benefit, we have set a date in August of next year for the Dragons, and I can't remember what it is. It's the second Saturday in August. That'll be Rotary Night at the Dragons, so mark your calendars.
Get on that promotion if you go, Shannon.
I will
All right.
definitely be there.
Okay. So after following the meeting, we have a brief board meeting. So if you want to stay, if you're on the board, please stay. If you want to stay and you're not on the board, you're welcome. Pete Bales, please come forward.
Excuse me.
Oh, ticket, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Should have noticed there's no movement on that. All right, 956-258. Remember the club share of that, Jerry Pfeiffer is our. No jokers. The club share goes to the Christmas Back Project. The pot grows. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. November 7th is a big day. And so Rick, you're not allowed to come over on November 6th. Right? I don't have a preference on who's up first.
Well, it helps if I know, because then I can put up the correct.
Or do schools, do schools.
PI levy.
So anyway, November 7th is a big day. There are a myriad of issues that we will be voting on. Plenty of candidates to consider. But today I've asked 2 particular issues to come forward. They are definite Beavercreek issues. There's a couple big state issues, of course, a lot of county issues that are renewals that I'd like you to pay attention to. But the 2 issues we're going to hear about today are about the school levy and the park levy. Because those are both, well, the park is a new levy. The schools, Diana will hopefully explain exactly what the difference between the existing levy and what the schools are asking for. But anyway, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Diana Unger, who's really spearheading the Citizens for Beavercreek Schools initiative, the PAC. She can ask everybody to vote yes. Paul can't do that. So I'm glad that she's here. And then we will also have Eric Corbett come up afterwards. He is representing the Friends of Beavercreek Parks to talk about that park initiative. So, Diana?
Is it best for me to stand over there?
I'll run for you.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
Yeah, so you can stand.
stand over here. Okay, super. All right, thank you. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today. I was really pleased to get the invitation. We are trying very hard as our levy committee to reach out to everyone in the community to appeal to them to vote yes for the replacement permanent improvement levy that's on the ballot next month. Next slide. Should be. I can do it without the slides. All right, so why are levies needed? If you go ahead and just, there's some animation there, it'll just appear as each point. So it's a state requirement that our school districts are funded, aside from the parts of money that come from the state and federal government, the local districts and the property tax owners are the ones that end up having to pay for the balance of what's necessary to run the schools. Sometimes communities also have school income tax on their books, but we do not have that here at Beavercreek City Schools. There are several types of levies. The ones that cover operating expenses primarily are what people hear as emergency levies. Those are initially added to put on the ballot for the first time as an emergency levy. They have to be renewed, so they do have a sunset clause in them. They're capped at an annual dollar amount each year for what is collected. Over time, like a growing district like Beavercreek City Schools, we're always adding students, so the cost of educating the public school students is always going to at least stay the same, if not grow. So eventually emergency levies may turn into a substitute levy, which changes the formula a little bit, but those are still renewable. And then there's the continuous levies, and that is what happens when you don't have to go to the polls anymore to vote for that same bucket of money to continue. That's really beneficial to the community because we all know voter fatigue can be a real issue. Then where there's capital expenses concerned on levies, permanent improvement levies exist. And the permanent improvement replacement levy that's on the ballot next month is something that maybe you're not familiar with. The calculations for it, the details around it are different than the operating levies that we see more often here at Beavercreek City Schools. So these are expenses that are related to items that have a life of at least 5 years. They might be buses. In fact, the district just had to replace 4 buses to the tune of $476,000 because that is the cost of buses. We have a fleet of about 100 buses, I think, is that the right number? Yeah, so those have to be on some kind of a schedule to make sure that the kids are being transported in a safe fashion. Security systems and the modulars that we have to accommodate the students in overcrowded schools, the parking lots, building repairs. For any of you that might know what happened in May, 2 weeks before school was out this last year, there was a sewage pipe that burst under the high school cafeteria floor. And that was an unanticipated expense, but it had to be paid for. So that kind of expense is what would qualify under permanent improvement funds. And certainly the HVAC systems, plumbing, things like that. So really anything that you could see that would affect the things that have to live for a long time. Now this is different than bond issues. Bond issues are for new builds. So that is not what we're talking about today. So we have a permanent improvement levy. It's a replacement. It was a 1 mil levy that was first passed in 1989. Over here on my right, to the far right here, and I know the folks online on Zoom might not be able to see this, but we'll be happy to share with you how to get to that online. We have introduced a timeline history of all the levies that have passed since 1989 when this permanent improvement levy was first passed by voters. It's always been a renewable levy, and permanent improvement levies are fixed on a certain property value amount assessed by the county auditor in a moment in time. And it stays that way until the voters change it. So for 34 years, and you can see all the history with all these levies that have passed, every 5 years, for 34 years, this 1 mill levy has continued to be approved by voters. And it's still based on 1989 property values. Unless you're a new build since then, and then it's based on your original assessed property value. That's the same formula today. So what's happened is it's not keeping up with the growth of the community. It brings in about $900,000 today. And when it was first passed, it brought in about $860,000. If I'm not mistaken, that $40,000 difference might have been what that sewage pipe cost to repair. Am I right about that? Something like that? Yeah, so what the district is asking, and we'll go ahead and continue here. Keep going on that, please. Thank you. We are asking, the district is asking that we have enough funds to handle the permanent improvement costs that are associated with the district that is our size, 10 buildings, approximately 100 buses. I did the math from there's several documents on the district's website that'll tell you how many square feet each of our buildings are. When you add them up, that's over 1 million square feet of space that has to be maintained, as well as the surrounding property that the district owns. For those of you who are really fascinated by school funding, I am, and I'm a bit weird about that, but anyone can look up the CUP report. It is published by the State Department of Education. You can just put that into your browser and it'll give you a history. It's an Excel file that you can open up at any time. And it'll tell you for any public school district, what is the cost to educate those students by student? And that's the appropriate way to compare one school district to another. And these funds are included in that. And you'll be happy to know that Beavercreek City Schools is consistently spending less per average per year on each student than the average school district. And we are also spending less consistently than the 20 similar districts to us. So that will continue to be the case even with this replacement improvement levy. So the details on this, it's a replacement, but still a 1 mill levy. So what does that mean? The district is asking that voters approve moving the fixed anchor point from 1989 property values to 2022. So hopefully you all recognize that I didn't say 2023 values, right? Everybody got their letter? Okay. So if this passes, when it passes next month, it'll be fixed on 2022 property values. So that's a benefit, right? And if it passes at a later date, that won't be on 2022 values. So it's really beneficial for us to pass this now. It's going to generate about $2.175 million annually. That's the figure also that our county auditor has acknowledged. And again, it would be based on 2022 values moving forward. So in a year from now, it's not going to change to 2023 values because permanent improvement levies are operating on, the amount is on a fixed date. New builds after this, it would be based on their original assessed value. And the ballot language, just to be aware, ballot language will say effective January 2023. But that means it's based on 2022 values because we pay in arrears, 12 months in arrears, and the county auditor website actually has a statement to this effect so that anyone who is afraid that maybe they're not hearing the right thing when they see the ballot language, you can confirm that with the county auditor. So our community needs to stay strong. We need strong schools. Our district is going to continue to grow. I think just 2 weeks ago, I saw an article in the Dayton Daily News that there's a Miamisburg-based developer that wants to put in 100 homes at Indian Ripple somewhere along there. And that's in addition to all the things that are currently being built. We also have a lot of undeveloped land. So between the township the city. We do have some properties that are in Montgomery County in the district, as well as Fairborn. We are not going to see that slow down. Our enrollment is going to continue to go up, and the district is required to provide education to anyone who is a student that lives within those district borders. So the district needs our support, and we're asking that as supporters, that you make the time to get to the polls on or before November 7th and vote yes. That is the conclusion of my prepared talk on this. What questions might you have about this? I've stunned you all. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think it's going to relate directly related to this, but where do the dollars come from for the new high school?
Let me say the question was,
Being built.
the high school that's being built?
Yes.
There is not a high school being built.
Or is that your?
That is probably Fairborn City Schools, so they would go through similar processes to what we're doing here for Beavercreek City Schools. No, but a lot of people are asking about what is going to happen with Beavercreek City Schools and a high school, because if you've been in the schools, I have a high school daughter, those rooms are very crowded. So, yes, sir.
How much extra do we have to pay
Oh, yes.
in permanent, because of the permanent improvement levy, because our buildings are all so old?
So I'm not sure I understand.
If
the
we had all
specific
new
question.
buildings, wouldn't we spend less on maintenance and all that other stuff?
Yes, as the levy committee chair, we are looking for that information, and we would expect that the public would look for that at the time that any new builds are considered. I do want to address something that's similar, that's related to what you just said. I didn't cover how much you're paying today for $100,000 versus what this replacement levy would do. So today it's about $14 per 100,000 assessed value. Right, it's a 1 mil. So it's actually in effect about 0.4 mil value. What the district is asking for is to restore that to a 1 mil levy, which would bring that to $35 per 100,000 in assessed value. It's a very small levy. However, because it would be based on 2022 values, there will be an immediate tax reduction factor applied, and what's realized will not be $35 per $100,000 in property value. It will be less than that. The exact numbers aren't quite known yet, but it will be less than that. I don't know if I answered your question about.
Yeah, sort of.
I would say myself and any voter would want to know cost benefit analysis. Yeah, so we would expect that. What other questions do you have? All right, I thank you very much for your time. I'll be here till you're all dismissed, but also on the tables, and I know that we have some extras here for the tables that don't already have brochures that describe the permanent improvement levy in detail, the replacement levy. And there's also an indication of where you can find up-to-date information very regularly on social media and our website. So thank you very much. It's all. Here's the on button.
Thank you.
And I'll try to guess for yours too.
Is it on? Okay. Thank you. I think we're gonna need to make sure we have plenty of places for all those kids to play.
I agree.
Share it. I gotta make sure.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to come here today and talk about something I'm passionate about. Don, I appreciate the humor earlier. It may cost me $1, but my favorite dad joke is my wife complains about me being immature. I told her to get out of my porch. Tough crowd, but I feel pretty good about that. My name is Eric Corbett. I represent Friends of Beavercreek Parks. I have been on the park board, Parks Recreation and Culture Advisory Board for about 10 years, served in a volunteer capacity there, and have recently agreed to chair this group. Professionally, my day job, I work at Wright State University, where I work with recreation, as well as the student union and student activities. So get to do the fun stuff. I I remember Ryan from his days as a student. We used to interact back then and see a lot of familiar faces. So again, thank you. Friends of Beavercreek Parks, our role, our purpose is to advocate for and support growth and use of parks here in Beavercreek. And as you can imagine, I'm here to talk about our levy. And you're actually on the right page. So
No, but I'm not sharing.
okay. Well, I have to share, so no, I'm just kidding. So
We
we're
have to share.
we've got a levy. It's issue 21 that's coming up on the ballot here in November to support parks and recreation. When you look at that ballot, when you show up at the election booth and look at the ballot, it's just going to say a generic term for parks and recreational purposes. So I want to help you understand what that means. There are a lot of pieces to that. I'll keep going. A lot of items on that list. Can you go one more for me? Perfect. So what does this levy include? It includes ongoing and emerging needs like infrastructure or failing infrastructure or regular maintenance. It includes capital needs that are outlined in the 2019 Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan. And I want to stop for a second on that master plan. Hey, don't touch anything. Nobody moves, right? So, you know, a lot of folks are wondering, and Mr. Adams mentioned this to me earlier, you know, where did this idea for this park come from? Well, fortunately, we had a great opportunity to purchase the land. And if you haven't seen it, it's an amazing piece of property, and no tax dollars were spent to get that 148 piece of property. But this came out of your questions, your needs, your folks, your friends, your neighbors calling in and saying, hey, we need this in this area. We don't have this in Beavercreek. I'm tired of going to Kettering to get this. I'm tired of going to another area. So the department brought in a consulting firm, Brentstetter Carroll. They did a very thorough job of gathering community input. They did a number of open sessions. They did a number of surveys, mailing, in person, online. They really went to a number of links to make sure they got community input. And the items that I'm going to talk about that are included in this levy, particularly in Springhouse Park, are things that the community asked for. And so the other things that are included, you go back one more, please. Sorry. Yeah. I kind of jumped off script there. So the one in between. So yeah, I got to the third point. So ADA improvements, we had an ADA evaluation just about a year ago. Came in and looked at all our parks and gave us some information on where we could better serve our folks with disabilities and some of our older folks that need accommodations there. So that'll include things like adding sidewalks from parking lots to parks, sidewalks to restrooms, making restrooms more accessible. It'll also add some staffing to meet some ongoing needs and maintenance. Also add some support to the senior center, which is continuing to grow, and meet the future needs related to this park. Also, as part of the Brentstetter Carroll assessment, they did a comparison, a benchmarking comparison to 45 other communities that were similar to Beavercreek in our region: Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. One of the stats that really stood out, while our acreage is very similar, very comparable, in some cases better than some of those benchmark groups, our staffing is below the lowest. We would be 46th in that list of 45. And I know our folks work very hard. I know we have to contract some services to provide that. So there's an ongoing need there. And then the last thing, and probably the biggest, certainly the biggest part of this levy, is the development of Springhouse Park, right? So many of you have seen this. This is kind of small. I didn't pass it out yet. I will before I leave. I've got a fact sheet that has this information on it and some other things, some other answers to some other questions. But it's an amazing piece of property. If you're not familiar with the location, it is kind of a rectangle between I-675, Grange Hall Road, Shakertown, and Patterson. It's a beautiful piece of property. It has topography to it. It has a lot of natural elements that we get to keep. And it's going to have a lot of wonderful things for us to do, including more trails, which is always number one on the surveys. What people want, more trails and connectivity. It's going to have pickleball courts, which are all the rage. I can't turn on a television show without pickleball being mentioned somewhere in there these days. It's going to have a splash pad, which has been something the community has asked about a lot, particularly in those surveys. It's going to have an archery range, which we've got a real strong instruction program there. Basketball courts, a food court drive with electric built in for events, a great lawn where we can do some really large community events. It's going to have an overlook shelter, picnic shelters, more playgrounds, and I'm sure there's 7 or 8 things I'm not mentioning. in there. Certainly restrooms, that's always a popular one that gets overlooked. Dog park, this golf course. And if you go out there now, there are 3 trails available of 1.5 to a 2.5 mile loops through the woods, and there's a gravel parking lot on the Patterson side. So I'm missing one in there somewhere, and that may be me. I should have Diana help me with the levy language.
It goes from there.
Go back, yeah, I missed one, so that's my fault.
This one?
Hey, there you go. Save that for last, I guess. So how much does it cost? This is a continuing levy at a rate not to exceed 1.93 mils for $1 of taxable value. So it amounts to $68 per 100,000. And very much like the school levy, it is based on the 2022 valuation. It is a continuing levy, which is one of the questions I continue to get. To develop this park, a big chunk of this levy is going to pay for the development of the park. And that's going to be around just shy of $29 billion. So in order to do that, we would have to purchase a 25-year bond. In addition, there's the staffing positions I mentioned, so we can't very well commit to staff and a 25-year bond without a levy that we know is going to continue over the period of that time. And then maybe go backwards since I went out of order. Why is this important, right? And I think most people understand this. I don't think people I've talked to that aren't in favor of the levy aren't against parks. Even had somebody come up and talk to me today. And I understand that, but there are so many benefits, and they're listed here, from community revitalization to economic development, creating safer neighborhoods and places for kids to learn, kind of going out of order, but health, mental health, physical health, arts and culture, tourism, community engagement. And some of us have been on kind of the speaking tour this week and have heard me say the same thing 3 or 4 times, but community engagement is my favorite one of these. Work and recreation I have for 30 years. And I do that because I enjoy connecting with people and having the opportunity to do that. I've been quoting Plato, who said, you can learn more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. And I believe that to be true. And parks create an opportunity for that, for you to connect in so many different ways, whether it's walking on a trail, whether it's playing around in disc golf or pickleball, whether it's just hanging out while you're watching your kids or your grandkids play in a splash pad or on a playground. So I hope folks come out and support. I did have one more slide. I can wing this one, I think. If you want to get involved, there's still opportunities to do that. And I've placed there we go. Number one is be informed. And that's, I think, what most of us are here to talk about, what's included in this. If you didn't know and you showed up and looked at the ballot, you'd have no idea what that meant for parks and recreational purposes. So be involved, share this information with your neighbors. I said, I've got another FAQ sheet that I will put around. I've got some signs, some vote for park signs. If you're interested in helping promote, you can take one of those. I've got some more in the car. There's great information on the Beavercreek website. On the taxes side of things, I was at an engagement last night, and City Manager Pete Landrum said that today Beavercreek was going to add some language helping people understand the tax, because 90% of the levies for the City of Beavercreek aren't fixed, right? So they're not going to change. And then I think most of you know this, the Greene County Audit page has a lot of great information about how those taxes work. You can follow us on Facebook at Friends of Beavercreek Parks. And then I've got the FAQ handout. I mentioned the sign, financially, I'm not here to fundraise, but signs cost money, and we're always looking for ways to do that. If you want to support us, we've got a PO box and we've got Venmo at Creek Parks, trying to stay modern. And finally, what you can do is vote yes for this on November 2nd. Can I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
The Spring House Park, was such a large area. Why didn't they allocate anything for like primitive camping or some type of campsite?
So what I can tell you is how they made the decisions on what went in there came specifically from the master plan in 2019. And I don't believe that was an item that came up in those surveys. I think they worked with that consultant to protect as much of the natural space. I don't know that camping was an item that considered. Yeah, and it's the first time I've heard of it, and not that I was that involved.
Greene County, and then it comes to council, Beavercreek has the largest scout contingency of the area, so it's kind of odd they don't have anywhere that they have local camping.
And I'll pass that along. Thank you. I think I saw. Yes, sir.
So it's pretty close to bike path. Is there a connection? How's that work?
I think so. I've asked that question a couple of times myself. I think they like to connect it. Right now, the Superfund site is kind of between the Grange Hall stop and the park. So I think they're kind of looking at how they could do that. And I know there's talk about connecting on the other side over the bridge. There's no concrete plan yet, but that is definitely on the list of things, because connectivity is one of the items that the community stressed. And we all know what a resource that parks, the bike path is. All right. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just to respond to that, we're requesting a grant from the MVRPC to connect that. We won't do anything on that until probably next year. But if it's accepted, it will go all the way to the park, to the south of it, and then all the way north of it.
Thank you, Don.
It's not gonna happen tomorrow.
Right. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much for that information. As become our tradition, we are donating a book in our speaker's honor to the community library. Gustavo the Shy Ghost is the book that we're going to do. Thanks for your presentations today. So our next meeting next Friday, we have Mike Parks of the Dayton Foundation. Consider inviting a guest or prospective member. Please keep an eye on upcoming programs at beavercreekrotary.com and Facebook. Is there anything else for the good of the club? Member board meeting after, and we'll stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss?